92/2021. You have the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise to ask the question under my name to the Honourable Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service and Communications. Can the Minister update the Parliament on the COVID-19 response Home Loan Assistance Act of 2020? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Honourable Attorney General, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. Parliament approved this particular law, Mr. Speaker, sir, in December of last year. On the 11th of December, it was assented to. By way of background, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is, of course, to address the issues emanating from the economic contraction and, of course, the shutting down of the borders because of COVID-19 last year. It had a deleterious impact on the tourism sector. Of course, a lot of people have become unemployed. Some people have got reduced hours. We put in place a number of measures in place, specifically to do with financial institutions. We had meetings with, for example, hire purchase companies, Mr. Speaker, sir, and also banks. And a particular moratorium was given by the banks. There was also identification of loans that would actually go bad, whether they were personal loans, etc. And hire purchase companies also gave a particular amount of time for reprieve for those who actually had hire purchase agreements. Consequently, that had ended that arrangement, and the arrangement in respect of homes was going to end in March of this year. We were specifically concerned about those people who had home mortgages, in particular those who were owning the first homes, and so therefore this law was put in place. The law specifically, Mr. Speaker, sir, allows or states, as I've got the law here, that the mortgagor and the mortgagee must try and reach some agreement to ensure that the owner of the home actually does not lose the home. In particular, those people that we know that there were couples, both of them were working, and in some cases, if you were, both of you were flight attendants, you no longer had a job, or you worked in a hotel, you may not have had a job, and if you had a home mortgage, then you would have difficulties in making your mortgage repayments. The law essentially allows, Mr. Speaker, sir, and persuades the banks to ensure that they give these people enough time to help make ends meet. In the event that there is a eventuality that repayment has to be made, then the banks can, with the approval of FNPF, we have to make an amendment to the FNPF Act, where these individuals can then access not only the general account but also the preserved account. And as we know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that you cannot access your preserved account unless you're actually purchasing your first home. In many instances, these individuals actually had already accessed the FNPF account to purchase their first home, get their mortgage, but this gave them a second bite of the cherry. So they could get up to 50% of the total amount of the FNPF funds that they had. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we've got an update, which I understand what the honourable member must be looking for. As of yesterday, the 24th of May, the fund has received 275 applications for home loan assistance under this particular program. They've paid out 155 applications totaling $1.64 million. 70% of these were from members' preserved accounts. The 155 applications that came through, 13 were from Housing Authority. These were the ones that were approved. 52 from BSP, 21 from HFC Bank, 1 from Bread Bank, 39 from Westpac, and 29 from ANZ. The banks and lenders have provided FNPF a list of the 1,575 members, Mr. Speaker, sir, who have moratoriums with them. About 900 of these members have collected their COVID-19 eligibility statements, equal 100% general account plus 50% of the PA preserved account balance from the FNPF. Mr. Speaker, sir, given the recent lockdown in the urban centres in Viti Levu and the inability to travel and make necessary arrangements, the FNPF board is considering extending the deadline for applications, which is due to close at the end of this month. So we hope to extend it to more people, because some people have not been, obviously, for example, Nandi Latoka, even if you're living on the other side of that creek near Roops. FNPF has dedicated a team working to assist members with the COVID-19 Response Home Housing Loan Assistance Act, and all efforts are being taken to assist members to save their home as well too. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Attorney General. Honourable Lynda Tabuya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I thank the Honourable Minister for that update on the COVID response home loan assistance, and thankful also for the indication that they're considering, the board is considering to extend the period for applications. My question is my supplementary question is regarding the repayment of loans and the involvement of the banks, Honourable Speaker. Is there any discussion, and the government can get involved to negotiate with the banks about reducing the interest rates on payment of these mortgages, because it's still ridiculously high, and there's a flow-on effect, especially for landlords who have rentals, and the rentals are to repay the to help repay the mortgage. But because of the current situation you're in, there are many people that aren't able to pay their rent on time, and also are asking for a reduction of rent, which the FCCC is encouraging. So there's a flow-on effect for landlords, especially, to repay the mortgage. So can the government at least make the attempt with the banks to negotiate to reduce the interest rates on the repayment of the loans? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a very dangerous thought, in a way, I have to say. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honourable Gavoka would know, he's been a banker before, that to artificially interfere with the market can have enormous consequences. We, of course, had discussions with the banks last year. A lot of the banks realized themselves that many of the customers were in strife, so had to make various adjustments. But for government to actually interfere with the financial system itself will create financial instability, which will also mean that we won't be able to adhere to international standards regarding financial independence of licensed financial institutions. You cannot do that. In the same way, I heard some former politicians saying, government should interfere, for example, not allow for the increase of, fuel. These are market-driven forces, world market-driven forces. It's adjudicated by an independent body, FCCC. What does drive down interest rates, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the level of liquidity in the system, is the amount of foreign reserves that you have within the system, and of course, Mr. Speaker, sir, supply and demand. So if your liquidity levels are high, which is actually quite high at the moment, given the situation, our reserves have exceeded $3 billion, that then gives confidence to the financial institutions to be able to then, have a reflection on the interest rates. The other point, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to make, and I've said this so many times in Parliament before, is that unfortunately for Fiji, we used to have a national bank that had a significant portion of the share of the market in Fiji. The only 100% Fijian-owned bank is HFC. And it is probably the smallest, if not the second smallest. And it only started a few years ago. So when you have, out of the 6 banks, 5 of them having their financial decisions being made by the capitals in their respective cities, it will have an impact on how they assess risk. And it will also have an impact on the appetite of the financial system in Fiji to be able to, for example, change interest rates, to be able to come up with policies that are more Fijian focused. That's the reality of it. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is very dangerous to try and interfere with that, because you'll cause a huge havoc in the financial system itself. So government has tried to, for example, as the Honourable Minister of Commerce and Trade was talking about Northern Development Programme, we last year disbursed about $30 million in loans to micro, small and medium enterprises, Fijian companies. So government has had to intervene. We currently have an arrangement with the Reserve Bank of Fiji where 70% of the loans for women businesses are actually guaranteed in the event that they do not pay their loan. 70% of their outstanding balance is guaranteed between the Fijian government and the Reserve Bank of Fiji. That's how we actually, participate in the market to ensure that loans are given on a much better terms, or accessibility of loans are actually increased. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank the Honourable Attorney General. We'll move on to the fourth oral question for today, and I give the floor to Dr. Salik Govind to ask question 93, 2021.
Thank you, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. I rise to ask question number 93, 21.